Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Editor Dylan here. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that this will be the last edited Legends of Legends video. It is so it is so mind-numbingly boring to edit these videos. They're already kind of hard to record. So I'm just letting you know that this will most likely, like 99%, be the last edited Legends of Legends video. So let me know how you feel about it down in the comment section below. I love you all. And without further ado, enjoy the last edited Legends of Legend. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Anok from Anok Gaming, and you are watching Legends of Legend. Once again, I am alone because my original co-host, Keldon or Darth Vex, however you want to say it, does not like to record these. So, without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. This is the year 2005. What a great year that was. Just kidding. I don't remember it. I was 3. Alright, let's get into it. First off, we have Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni. This is a 5/4 rat ninja for 6 mana. 4 of any color and 2 black. Ink Eyes has Ninjutsu. 5. 3 of any color and 2 black. Whenever Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni, deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard into play under your control. Then you may pay 1 of any color and a black to regenerate Ink Eyes. I'm gonna be honest, there was a better rat commander in the last set, or in the last year, so I'm going to give this one a D for do not play. Next up, we have Faithful Squire, a 2/2 human soldier for 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 white. That says, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, hint hint, there aren't many arcane spells nowadays, but back then, there were a bunch coming out in the set previous. Anyway, whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a key counter on Faithful Squire. At the end of your turn, if there are 2 or more key counters on Faithful Squire, you may flip it. It flips to Queso, Memory of Loyalty. This is a 3/4 spirit with flying that says remove a key counter from Queso, Memory of Loyalty, prevent all damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn. I'll be honest, this is mediocre, and I think I'm going to give it a D. Next up, we have one of the creepier Magic the Gathering cards of Hokori, Dust Drinker. This is a 2/2 spirit for 4 mana, 2 of any color, and 2 white. Lands don't untap during their controller's untap steps. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player untaps a land he or she controls. This is just a stacks piece as a commander, and that's really mean. I'm gonna give it a B. Next up, we have Kentaru the Smiling Cat, a 2/1 human samurai for 2 mana, 1 of any color, and 1 white. It has Bushido, which, if you remember from last video, is whenever this blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then it has an ability. You may pay X rather than pay the mana cost for samurai spells you play, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So instead of paying colored mana, you may pay colorless mana for samurai. This, in my humble opinion, is honestly an A tier commander. Next up, we have Opal Eye, Konda's Yojimbo. Hey, Jimbo. Just kidding. This 1/4 Fox Samurai costs 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 white. It has Bushido, 1. It also has Defender. So whenever this blocks, it gets +1/+1, becomes a 2/5. It has Tap. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage this turn, that damage is dealt to Opal Eye, Konda's Yojimbo instead. Then it also has pay 1, pay white, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to Opal Eye this turn. Overall, this is a pretty bad commander. I would rate it at a D. Next up, we have Oyobi, who split the heavens. There you go, I can English. A 3/6 spirit for 7 mana, 6 of any color, and 1 white. This spirit has flying, and whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, put a 3/3 white spirit creature token with flying into play. Now, I do think this one is a little bit better than the other ones that say whenever you play a spirit or an arcane spell, because this one creates extra bodies. That means that you'll have extra blockers, you'll be able to take less damage to the face, you will become a threat very quickly. My one problem with it is that it's 7 mana, and that's why this card isn't an S, but an A. Next up, we have Patron of the Kitsune. This 5/6 spirit it costs 6 mana, 4 of any color and 2 white, and it has Fox Offering. You may play this card anytime you could play an instant by sacrificing a Fox and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrifice Fox mana cost, including colors. Whenever a creature attacks, you may gain 1 life. Overall, I think this is pretty mediocre. However, it is a big body that you can cheat out as long as you have a really high cost Fox. Nowadays, I don't see too many Foxes, so it would be pretty bad nowadays. But back then, I'd give it a C. Next up, we have Yomiji, who bars the way. This 4/4 spirit costs 7 mana, 5 of any color, and 2 white. It says whenever a legendary permanent other than Yojimi, who bars the way, is put into a graveyard from play, return that card to its owner's hand. So it prevents all legendary permanents from hitting the graveyard. Well, I guess they hit, but then they come back. Which is really good for Wrath of God effects, or, actually, I don't know if this sees that. Or, like, destroy one target things. I don't think it's that great. However, it's not terrible. So I'm going to put this at a C. Next up, we have Kalojushi. This flip commander is a 2/2 human wizard for 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 blue. She has the ability, when you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a key counter on this. At the end of turn, if there are 2 more key counters on this, flip it. It flips into Jiraku the Interloper. This 3/4 spirit says remove a key counter from Jiraku the Interloper, counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. So, the goal of this commander would be to play this, and then either the same turn or the next turn, depending on if it survives, cast as many spirits or arcane spells as humanly possible to get those counters up there. And that way, at the end of turn, when it flips, you can just counter pretty much any threat that comes your way. This isn't a terrible commander, but it's also not a great commander. This would be a lot better in the 99. However, this is not a ranking of the 99. This is a ranking of how it would be as the commander. So I'm going to have to sadly put it at a C. Next up, we have Chisi, Heart of Oceans. This 4/4 spirit costs 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 blue. It has flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this unless you remove a counter from a permanent you control. F. No explanation. Next up, we have Heger, the Still Wind. This 3/4 human ninja costs 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 blue, but it has a ninjutsu for 2 of any color and 2 blue. So, what is ninjutsu? Because I think I forgot to read it. And ninjutsu says, return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. Put this card in play from your hand tapped and attacking. The problem is, this has ninjutsu, so you can't do it from the command zone. There is only one creature with commander ninjutsu, and that's Yuriko. She doesn't come out until about the year 2020-2021. Anyway, this says whenever Heger deals damage, combat damage, to a player, you search your library for a ninja card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and if you do, shuffle your library. Then it has an ability, pay 2 of any color, target ninja is unblockable this turn, making it easier to ninjutsu stuff out. So the problem with this commander, like I said, is it doesn't have commander ninjutsu, so it has to be in your hand in order to get the ninjutsu. So if you're playing this commander, you're going to be playing it from the command zone for its full 5. Yes, that extra mana isn't terrible, but it could also hold you back. I do believe that this is a very strong commander. If played properly, I also feel like it would be pretty good in the 99 of another deck, Once again, we're not ranking 99s. But I'm going to have to put this at a B. Next up, we have Kira, Great Glass Spinner. This 2/2 spirit costs 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 blue. It has flying, and when creatures you control have whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time in the turn, counter that spell or ability. That's pretty nutty, because this says each creature has that ability. So that means if they try to hit multiple things, all those things get countered, so they have to use 2 removal spells per creature, which is disgusting, and that also includes itself. Overall, I think that this is a B tier commander. It's pretty darn good. Next up, we have Patron of the Moon. This 5/4 spirit costs 7 mana, 5 of any color, and 2 blue. It has Moonfolk Offering. You may play this card at any time you can play an instant by sacrificing a Moonfolk and paying the difference in mana costs between this and the sacrificed Moonfolk. Mana cost includes color. It has flying, and it has pay 1 of any color, put up to 2 land cards from your hand into play, tapped. This goes really good with that other Moonfolk that returns lands from your field to your hand in order to do the mean things that it was doing. This goes really good with that, and if you could guarantee that you have both of them all the time, I think that's disgusting and should be looked into. I give this commander a B. Next up, we have Tomorrow, Azami's Familiar. This 1/5 spirit costs 6 mana, 5 of any color, and 1 blue. It says if you would draw a card, look at the top 3 cards of your library instead, put one of those cards into your hand, and the rest of them to the bottom of your library in any order. So basically, you're doing like a mega scry, right? You scry 3 and you put 1 into your hand every time you would draw a card. This is absolutely disgusting, making it easier to get out combos, making it easier to find the counter spells that you need, and making it easier to find your win cons. This is absolutely a disgusting commander. My only problem with it is it has no protection, and it costs 6 mana. However, nowadays, especially with that 1 blue cost, 6 mana isn't crazy. So, if I'm going to be honest, this is an S, if not God tier commander. I think I'm going to put it, at S because it's so much mana and it has no protection. That is the only thing holding it back from being a God tier commander. Next up, we have Hired Muscle. This 2/2 human warrior costs 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 black. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a key counter on this. If you have 2 or more key counters at the end of your turn, flip it. What does it flip into? It flips into Scarmaker, which is a very cool name for a creature, and the art for it is terrifying. This says this is a 4/4 spirit, by the way. This says remove a key counter from it. Target creature gains fear until end of turn. If you don't know what fear is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong if you do know what it is, but I don't think I'm wrong. Fear is it cannot be blocked by basically it can only be blocked by black or artifact creatures. I'm gonna honestly rate this commander pretty low. It's not great. It does let a few things get through, but it's not that good, so we're gonna give it a D. Next up, we have Kyoki, Sanity's Eclipse. This 6/4 demon spirit costs 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 black. It says whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, target opponent removes a card in his or her hand from the game. That is absolutely disgusting. It's not being discarded so they can't get it later, and as long as it's not an instant, they can't cast stuff from their hand when you do this. So my suggestion would be either get infinite black mana and play that, and then play out your entire hand of spirits and arcane spells trying to draw cards, tutor for more, or you can play it, hope it doesn't die, and then do that same thing the next turn. That is absolutely disgusting, and that is what gives this commander a B tier rating. Next up, we have one of the weirdest looking creatures I've ever seen in my life. This is Patron of Nezumi. This 6/6 spirit costs 7 mana, 5 of any color, and 2 black. It has Rat Offering, which is where you sacrifice a rat and you can play this at instant speed, and you can pay the difference between the rat's mana cost and this mana cost, and it includes color. It says whenever a permanent is put into an opponent's graveyard, that opponent loses 1 life. I'm gonna be real honest, not great. Scary, not great. Cool for rats, still not great. I'm gonna give this a D tier. Next up, we have Shari, Shizo's Caretaker. I always want to call him Cheryl for some reason, but it's Shari, and this 2/2 spirit costs 5 mana, 4 of any color, and 1 black. For that mana and that attack and power, this better be a good creature. This says, whenever a creature with power 1 or less is put into the graveyard from play, you may return that creature card to play under your control at the end of turn if Cheryl Shizu Caretaker is still in play. Okay. This is real specific, but if you can do something with it and play a lot of 1-drop creature or 1-power creatures, you could do something with it. It's possible to do in red. I had a standard deck at one point that did it in red. I'm gonna be honest, not that great, but it's not an F or a D. I think it's a little bit better. I'll put it at a C. Next up, we have Toshiro Yumezawa. Hopefully I pronounced that right. This 2/2 Human Samurai costs 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 black, adds Bushido 1, which is where if it blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1. Then it says, whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into the graveyard from play, you may play target instant card from your graveyard, or in your graveyard. If you do, or if that card would be put into the graveyard this turn, remove it from the game instead. So whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you can cast an instant or sorcery card and then exile it. Honestly, not terrible, but not great. I'm going to put it at a C tier. Next up, we have Yakora, the Prisoner. This 5/5 Demon Spirit costs 4 mana. That's a pretty good rate. 2 of any color and 2 black. It says, when Yakora, the Prisoner, leaves play, sacrifice all non-ogre creatures you control. What? What? That's not very good. Why would I want to... Oh. If you could find a way to give Yakora the Prisoner to your opponents, it is automatically a board wipe as soon as it leaves play. So if you can flicker it somehow, figure that out in black, give your opponents copies and then remove them, they lose all their damn creatures. And in that case, it's pretty good. But overall, I'm going to give this a D. I hate these flip cards, they're pissing me off, and I'm glad that there are no more after this year. Next up, we have Cunning Bandit. This 2/2 Human Warrior costs 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 red. It says whenever you play a Spirit or Arcane spell, you may put a key counter. If there are 2 more key counters at the end of the turn, you may flip this. What does it flip into, you may ask? It flips into a Zamuki Treachery Incarnate. It says remove a key counter from this and gain control of target creature until end of turn. Also, he becomes a 5/2. Weird. That's not very cool, I guess. I don't know. You're in red, so you can create infinite mana, and hopefully you could cast infinite spirits and arcane spells, or not infinite, but do a pretty good job and get a lot of key counters, and gain control of all of your opponent's creatures and kill them, is what I'm hoping. But that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, this is just a bad card. So I'm going to give it a C. Next up, we have Fumiko the Lowblood. This 3/2 Human Samurai costs 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 red. Fumiko the Lowblood has Bushido X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Your creatures your opponents control attack each turn if able. So, I don't know, man. It's fine. If you're a heavy creature deck, or if you can make infinite goblins with haste, or infinite creatures with haste, with like a Kiki-Jiki combo, then you're pretty golden. You just attack with infinite infinites, or a lot of infinite creatures. I don't know, man. It's the, I guess they only be, because only if they become blocked or blocked. If you can find a way to get those creatures trampled, then you're probably pretty good. But also, your opponents have to attack each turn. They don't have to attack you. It's not great, but it's not awful. I'm going to put Fumiko at a C. Next up, we have Heartless Hide Suzugu to I hate the TS. Tsugu is what we're gonna call it. 4/3 Ogre Shaman for 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 red. You can tap him and deal damage. Deals each player damage equal to half that player's life total rounded down. So if you can find a way to triple damage, which there are many ways, or double damage, or deal an extra damage, or untap this a bunch and retap it, you're golden, man. You win the game. That's just a W. To be honest, I'm going to put this commander to C. It's pretty good. Next up, we have a card that's probably not great nowadays, but probably was pretty decent back then. This is Ishi Aki Crackshot. This 1/1 Goblin Warrior costs 2 mana, 1 of any color and 1 red, and this goat riding, flaming, sling bearing, ugly ass goblin, it has an ability that says whenever an opponent plays a spirit or arcane spell, Ishi Aki Crackshot deals 2 damage to that player. Not good. Really not good. If your table is if you know for a fact your table's playing a spirit or arcane deck way back in the day, sure, this is a pretty good commander, but it does not hold up, and it probably, if I was back then and I'd be rating this for Commander, even though I don't think Commander was around back then, I would still rate this pretty low. I'd give this probably an F, to be honest. This is an F. Unless for some reason your table is very spirit or arcane spell heavy. This is Manichi, the Fevered Dream, or the Fervored Dream, however you want to pronounce that. This 1/2 spirit costs 3 mana, 2 of any color and 1 red. It has pay 1 of any color and 1 red, switch each creature's power and toughness until end of turn. F. I cannot find any way to make this decent. Hopefully you can, but I'm giving it an F. Next up, we have Patron of the Aki. This 5/5 spirit costs 6 mana, 4 of any color and 2 red, and guess what? It has Goblin Offering, which is the same as every other offering, but for goblins. Then it has whenever Patron of Aki attacks, creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. F. I'm hoping this is the last one of these that I have to do, because I honestly hate them with a burning passion. But next up, we have Badoka Pupil. This 2/2 human monk costs 3 mana, 1 of any color and 2 green. You get the gist. If you have 2 or more key counters, you get key counters by casting Arcane Spirits. You flip. Okay, what does he flip into? Ichiga, who topples Oaks. This 4/3 spirit has trample, and you may remove a key counter to give target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. D. Okay, goodbye. Ooh. D. Go get off my screen. Thank you. Next up, we have Isao Enlightened Bushi. This 2/1 human samurai costs 3 mana, 2 of any color and 1 green. Isao Enlightened Bushi can't be countered. That's pretty good. She has Bushido 2, which is where if she blocks or becomes blocked, she gets +2/+2 until turn. Then you can play 2 of any color to regenerate target samurai. That's not terrible, but it's not great. I'm going to give this commander a D. Next up, we have Iwamori of the Open Fist. This 5/5 human monk is swole as hell and costs 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 green. It has trample, because why wouldn't a swole boy have trample? Whenever Iwamori of the Open Fist comes into play, each opponent may put a legendary creature card from his or her hand into play. That is not good. Because what if they do have a legendary creature card in his or her hand? Back then, I'm sure it was a little bit easier to get away with. Nowadays, it is absolutely awful because pretty much a lot of good creatures are legendary. I'm going to have to give this one an F. Next up, we have Kodama of the Center Tree. This is an XX spirit for 5 mana, 4 of any color, and 1 green. Kodama of the Center Tree's power and toughness are equal to the number of spirits you control. Kodama of the Center Tree has Soul Shift X, where X is the number of spirits you control. Pretty decent, not great. If you remember, Soul Shift is when this creature dies, you may return a creature of the whatever it says to your hand where its mana value is less than or equal to the number of Soul Shift the card that died has. So whenever this dies, let's say it had a 3 Soul Shift, you would bring out a 3 or a 2 or a 1 mana spirit to your hand. I'm going to give this one an F. Next up, we have Patron of Orochi. This 7/7, 8 mana spirit, you can play it for 6 of any color or 2 green, and it has snake offerings, same as all the other offerings, but for snakes. Then it has tap. Untap all forest and green creatures play this ability only once each turn. That's a really good commander. I've seen it get played. It's not like really, really good, but it's pretty darn good. So I'm going to give this one a B. Next up, we have Sakiko, Mother of Summer. This 3/3 Snake Shaman costs 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 green. And she says, why the hell does a snake have biddies? Anyway, she says, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, add that much green to your mana pool. This mana doesn't cause mana burn, which isn't a thing anymore. Until end of turn, this mana doesn't empty from your mana pool as phases end. Not great. Really not great. You create some mana with her, but in my opinion, Patron of Orochi is a better commander. I'm honestly going to give her a C. Next up, we have Shizuko, Caller of Autumn. And this 2/3 Snake Shaman is 3 mana, 1 of any color, and 2 green. She says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player adds 3 green to his or her mana pool. This mana doesn't cause mana burn. Till end of turn, it doesn't go away as phases end. I'm going to give her an F. Why the hell would you want to be giving your opponent's mana, especially back then, if it doesn't cause mana burn? That was like the best reason to give your opponent's mana. Next up, we have Kiyomaru, First to Stand. This XX spirit costs 5 mana, 3 of any color, 2 white. And it says, this card's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand, and as long as you have 4 or more cards in your hand, this has vigilance. And then it also says, whenever this deals damage, if you have 7 or more cards in hand, you gain 7 life. Overall, this is really not a bad card, but it's also really not great, so I'm going to give it right there in the middle and hit it with a C tier. Next up, we have Celestial Kirin. This 3/3 Kirin spirit costs 4 mana, 2 of any color, and 2 green, 2 white. I can English. This has flying, and whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, destroy all permanents with that spell's converted mana cost. What in the hell? Kind of bullshit. What? Yeah, I read that right. That's a pretty good commander. I mean, well, because you're also destroying your own permanents. If you play something for 0 that destroys all lands, that's absolutely disgusting. And I hate you if you play this. So you basically have to make sure that you just don't play anything that's 4 mana. You probably want to keep to things that are between 0 and 3. This is absolutely disgusting. I'm giving it A tier. Next up, we have Katake, War's Wage. This commander is still played today. This 2/1 spirit costs 2 mana, 1 of any color, and 1 white, and it says all artifacts have at the beginning of your upkeep. Sacrifice this artifact unless you pay 1. This gets really annoying when you have a bunch of mana rocks and your opponent's just like, hey, you gotta pay 1 for that at the beginning of your upkeep or else you sacrifice it. It's also really gay if it's in the 99, but as a commander, it's also really girl. So I'm gonna give it a B. Next up, we have Michiko Konda, Truth Seeker. This human advisor is a 2/2 for 4 mana, 3 of any color, and 1 white. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you, that player sacrifices a permanent. Well, want to attack me with multiple creatures? Cool, sack multiple permanents. Hey, want to attack me with your 1 big creature? Cool, sacrifice anything else. Oh, hey, you want to do damage to me? Oh, no, you can't. Hey, you want to ping me for 1 a bunch of times? Sacrifice a bunch of little things. Ooh. This is honestly a pretty decent commander in my opinion. I give it a B. Next up, we have Runetail Kitsune Ascendant. This 2/2 Fox Monk is weird. So, it costs 3 mana, 2 of any color, and 1 white, and it says if you have 30 or more life, flip this card. It flips into Runetail's Essence. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. So as soon as this comes into play, it immediately flips, and it just is a fog for your creatures. Absolutely disgusting, and I'm going to give this an A tier. Next up, we have Cloudhoof Kirin. This 4/4 Kirin Spirit costs 5 mana, 3 of any color, and 2 blue. It has flying, and whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put the top X cards of target player's library into his or her graveyard, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. If you can create infinite mana, or cast a spell infinite times, or just cast the spells a bunch of times and cast big spells, you'll be milling quite a bit. While this commander isn't great, it's also not terrible, so I'm going to give it a C. Next up, we have Ereo Soratomi Ascendant. This 1/1 Moonfolk Monk costs 2 mana, 1 of any color, and 1 blue. It has flying, and whenever the fourth spell of your turn is played, flip this card. What does it flip into, you wonder? It flips into Ereo's Essence. Counter the first spell played by each opponent each turn. It's honestly disgusting if you're able to flip this the same turn it comes in, or even the next turn. So you know what? All power to you. If you want to try to flip this, I give it a B. Next up, we have Kaho Manamo. Anyway, Kaho Manamo Historian. This 2/2 human wizard costs 4, 2 of any color, and 2 blue. It says when this card comes into play, search your library for up to 3 instant cards and remove them from the game. Then shuffle your library. Then she has an ability that says pay X, tap it. You may play a card with converted mana cost X removed from the game with Kaho without paying its mana cost. If you can find a way to break this, I'm sure it's way better than I'm making it out to be, but I'm going to give this a D. Next up, we have one of my favorite boys to ever be printed. He's so cute and fat with his little butt cheeks, and you're going to see what I mean right now. This is Kami of the Crescent Moon, a 1/3 spirit for 2 blue mana. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws a card. So each player is drawing 2 cards on their draw step. Really good commander. Really good. It's so much fun for group hug. I like it. However, I know it's not that good. So, I'm sorry, Kami, and you're going to have to forgive me. I give you an A. Next up, we have Sakashima the Imposter. 2 mana of any color and 2 blue for a 3/1 human rogue. As Sakashima the Imposter comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakashima becomes a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter. It's still legendary and it gains tap 2 of any color and 2 blue. Return Sakashima the Imposter to its owner's hand at the end of turn. So, you can copy the best spell on the field, and you never really have to worry about playing commander tax unless it gets removed, because you can just keep bouncing it every time a better creature comes out and bouncing it to your hand at the end of turn. Pretty darn good, if I do say so myself, but it's not great. So I'm going to give this card, because it also really heavily depends on your opponents, unless you're playing just some absolute bangers. I'm going to give this card, we're going to give it a B. Alright, next up we have Soromaru First to Dream. What was he dreaming about? Let's find out. This XX spirit costs 6 mana, 4 of any color, and 2 blue. It has flying, and it says its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. Then it has pay 4, return a land you control to its owner's hand, draw a card. I'm going to say, not really good. There was a better blue commander earlier, and in total, it's not great. I think I'm going to give it a D. Next up, we have Akuta, Born of Ash. This 3/2 spirit costs 4 mana, 2 of any color, and 2 black. It has haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have more cards than each opponent, more cards in hand than each opponent, you may sacrifice a swamp. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to play. It's mediocre, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put it at D. Next up, we have Infernal Kirin. This Kirin is a 3/3 Kirin spirit. for 2 mana of any color into black. This says it has flying, and when you play a Spirit or Arcane spell, target player reveals his or her hand and discards all cards with that spell's converted mana cost. I'm not going to look too far into this. I'm going to just give it a C and go along with my day. Next up is Cage Maru, First to Suffer. This poor boy is a 5 mana XX. For 3 of any color and 2 black, you get a Demon Spirit. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. Then you may pay a black and sacrifice him. All creatures get -X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. This poor ugly man. It's not terrible, and you can do it as soon as you play him as long as you have an additional mana. So, in my opinion, I give him a B. Next up, we have Kuon, Ogre Ascendant. This 2/4 Ogre Monk says at the end of your turn, if you have 3 or more creatures that were put in the graveyard from play this turn, flip this. What does it flip into? It flips into Kuon's Essence. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. Not great, not terrible. I'm going to give it a B. Next up, we have Maga, Traitor to Mortals. This 0/0 human wizard costs X and 3 black, and it says it comes into play with X +1/+1 counters, where X is what you paid into the X cost. And it says when Maga comes into play, target player loses life equal to the number of counters on it. I'll be honest, unless you have infinite mana, or at least a shit ton of mana, you're not killing nobody with this. So, I'm going to give this an F. Next up, we have Adamaru, First to Desire. This XX spirit costs 3 mana, 1 of any color and 2 red. It says its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in the hand of an opponent, or in the hand of the opponent with the most cards in their hand. F. Next up, we have Homura, Human Ascendant. This 4/4 human monk says it can't block. And if it is put into the graveyard from play, return it to into play flipped. The problem is, no one's gonna block it, knowing that it will die and return flipped. What does it do flipped, you may ask? Well, it turns into Homura's Essence. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. And pay a red, this creature gets +1/+1, or +1/+0 until end of turn. I'm gonna be honest, it's really bad. F. Oh, and I forgot to mention it costs 6 for colorless and 2 red. F. Go to hero. Next up, we have Izuka or Lizuka. I can't tell if that's no, that's an I. Izuka, the Ruthless. This 3/3 human samurai costs 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 red. It has Bushido 2, or if it blocks or becomes blocked, gets +2/+2 until the turn. Then you may pay 2 in the red, sacrifice the samurai you control, gain double strike until end of turn. I'm gonna be honest, pretty bad. F. Next up, we have Jiwari, the Earth Aflame. This 3/3 spirit costs 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 red. It says pay X in a red, tap it. It deals X damage to target creature without flying. And then it has channel X and 3. Discard this card. It deals X damage to a creature without flying. I'm gonna be honest, it's an F. Next up, we have Skyfire Kirin. This 3/3 Kirin spirit costs 4 mana, 2 of any color and 2 red. Flying. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may gain control of target creature with the spell's current mana cost until the turn. I'm gonna be honest, it's an A. It's pretty damn good. Next up, we have Arashi, the Sky Asunder. It's a 5/5 spirit for 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 red. It has pay X and green, tap it. It deals X damage to target creature with flying. Then it has channel. You can pay X and 2 green, deal X damage to each creature with flying. Ooh. F. Next up, we have Ayumi, the Last Visitor. This is pretty schmexy. This 7/3 spirit costs 5 mana, 3 of any color and 2 black. She has legendary land walk. So that means if your opponent controls a legendary land, they can't block her. I'll be honest, not great. F. Next up, we have Bounteous Kirin. This 4/4 Kirin spirit costs 7 mana, 5 of any color and 2 green. It has flying and the whole whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell. This one says you may gain life equal to that spell's converted mana cost. That's a lot better and a lot more easy because you don't have to worry about what your opponents are doing. So I'm going to give this one an A. Next up, we have Masumaru, first to live. This XX spirit costs 6 mana, 3 of any color and 3 green. This says its power and toughness are equal to twice the number of cards in your hand, F. Next up, we have Reki, the history of Kamigawa. This 1/2 human shaman costs 3 mana, 2 of any color and a green. Whenever you play a legendary spell, draw a card. This is God tier. Next up, we have Sasaya Orochi Ascendant. This 2/3 snake monk costs 3 mana, 1 of any color and 2 green. Reveal your hand. If you have 7 or more land cards in your hand, flip it. What does it flip to, you may ask? This is Sasaya's Essence. Whenever a land you control is tapped for mana, add 1 mana of that type to your mana pool for each other land you control with the same name. The good news is you play this in a mono-green forest deck. The bad news is, in order to flip it, you have to have 7 or more forests in your hand, which I don't think is very easy to do. So I'm going to give this an F. Next up, we have Seki, Season's Guide. This 0/0 spirit costs 8 mana, 5 of any color and 3 green. It says it comes into play with 8 +1/+1 counters. If damage would be dealt to Seki, prevent that damage, remove that many X +1/+1 counters from Seki, then you may put that many 1/1 colorless spirit tokens into play. Sacrifice 8 spirits, return Seki from the graveyard to play. I'm gonna be honest, it's not great, but it's also not the worst. I'm gonna give this a C. Next up, we have Argus Kos, Wojek Veteran. This hard-to-pronounce card is a human soldier. It's a 3/3 for 5 mana, 3 of any color, a red, and a white. This Boros commander says, whenever Argus Kos Wojek Veteran attacking red creatures get +2/+0, and attacking white creatures get +0/+2. Wait, sorry, +2/+0, and then +0/+2. I'll be honest, it's not great. Really not great. I'm gonna give it a D. Next up, we have Chorus of the Conclave. This 3/8 Dryad Lord costs 8 mana, 4 of any color, 2 green, and 2 white. This Dryad Lord has Forest Walk, and it says, as an additional cost to play creature spells, you may pay any amount of mana. If you do, that creature comes into play with that many additional counters on it. That's honestly not terrible. However, it costs 8 mana, so I'm gonna put this commander at a C. Next up, we have Circu, or Circu, or Kirku. Anyway, Dimir Lobotomist. This 2/3 human wizard costs 4 mana, 2 of any color, a blue, and a black. Whenever you play a blue spell, remove the top card of target player's target library from the game. Whenever you play a black spell, remove the top card of target library from the game. Your opponents can't play non-land cards with the same name as a card removed from the game with this card. I'm gonna be honest, if you were able to hit lands with this, this would be a god tier commander, but because you're not, unless you're playing against a rat deck, or a persistent petitioner deck, or a Shadowborn Apostle deck, this is doing nothing. So unless that is your exact meta, this is an F. Or it's just cool because, you know, you can storm off and play a lot of blue and black spells and then eventually mill your opponents out by exiling their entire libraries. But that's a lot harder to do. Next up, we have Razia, Boros Archangel. This 6/3 angel costs 8 mana, 4 of any color, 2 red, and 2 white. It has flying, vigilance, and haste. And it says tap. The next 3 damage that would be dealt to target creature you control this turn is dealt to another target creature instead. I'm gonna be honest, if this didn't have both vigilance, haste, or all 3 of those abilities, vigilance, haste, and flying, this would be an ass commander. However, because it has vigilance and haste, that means it can attack as soon as it comes in, and it doesn't tap so that it can tap for its later ability, which is absolutely awesome. So, I'm gonna give this a B. Next up, we have Savra, Queen of the Golgari. This 2/2 elf shaman costs 4 mana, 2 of any color, 1 black and 1 green. It says whenever you sacrifice a black creature, you may pay 2 life. If you do, each other player sacrifices a creature. That's already good. If you sacrifice a green creature, you gain 2 life. Awesome. This is an awesome commander. To be honest, I'm going to give this one God tier. Next up, we have Sisters of Stone Death. This 7/5 Gorgon Costs 8 mana, 4 of any color, 2 black and 2 green. This sexy looking Gorgon has the abilities of pay a green, target creature blocks Sister of Stone of Death and this turn of Abel. Pay a black and a green, remove from the game target creature blocking or blocked by Sisters of Stone Death. Pay 2 of any color and a black. Put a creature card removed from the game with Sisters of Stone Death into play under your control. I'm gonna be honest, as long as you can create a lot of mana, this is a really nasty commander, and I would 100% recommend playing it if you can get a good mana base and a good just set of mana rocks around her. I'm gonna give her a B. Next up, we have a commander that I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name. This is Sadek. We're gonna call him Zach. This is Zach, Lord of Secrets, a 5/5 vampire for 3 of any color, 2 blue and 2 black. Zach has flying, and it says if Zach would deal combat damage to a player, instead put that many +1/+1 counters on Zach, and that player puts that many cards of his or her library, of the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard. I'll be honest, it's not very good. If it had haste, it'd be a lot better. If you had a way to give it haste, it'd be a lot better. Or a way to manipulate its power so that it can immediately mill an opponent out. That'd be poggers, but I'm be honest, it's a D. I believe this is last but not least. Don't quote me on this, because I don't know if we're doing another year after this. But this is Tolsmir, Wolfblood. This 3/4 elf warrior costs 6 mana, 4 of any color, a green and a white, and it says other green creatures you control get +1/+1, other white creatures you control get +1/+1, and tap to put a legendary 2/2 white and green wolf token named Voja into play. I'll be honest, not great. However, if you're playing a bunch of green-white creatures that are both colors, they get +2/+2, which immediately makes this a lot better, but still not great. At best, this is a C, but I'm giving it a D. Now that was the end of 2005. I'm going to quickly look and see how many cards are in 2006, and I will decide if we're going to do 2006 or not. Be right back. There are 63 commanders in, 66, sorry. 66 commanders in 2006, so I'm not going to do that one this video. I apologize. So, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Go check out the merch at the link down below, and all my other stuff at the link down below. If I missed any commanders, let me know, because it has happened. I've been missing about 1 to 3 every video. And that's just the nature of how things are. So just let me know in the comments. I'll give them a rating either in the description or in the comments, and I'll pin it. Let me know. Anyway, I love you all. That was 2005. Holy hell, what a year. I'm Anok from Anok Gaming, and you're watching Legends of Legend with Anok Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next one. I love you all. Spread love and be kind. La da da. Love you all. Goodbye. Yes. That was so long. End the video, please. End it. Goodbye. Okay, well, that was the final edited Legends of Legends video. Holy hell, I recorded this video back on October 7th, 2023, and I did the first editor Dylan somewhere in between then and now. It is currently May 5th, 2024. Any more Legends of Legends videos that come out after this will not be edited. I'm so sorry if you really want the edited. At best, I will pause the recording. Okay, with that being said, I love you all. Goodbye.